How's it going, everyone? King Blacktooth here again. So we're focusing on the Caretaker card today. So this is a card which we're definitely going to have to revisit at a later date, because this card is wholly dependent on the rest of the cards in the game that are available to us. No matter what deck or what cards we're talking about, this one depends on them all. Okay? So first off, let's just go through what the Caretaker is at the present time and how good it is right now with the cards we've seen. So the Caretaker is an 8 strength melee unit. His meleeness doesn't really matter because he's a hero card, so he can't get buffed or nerfed, so it doesn't really matter. He's a neutral card, so everyone has access to him, which is really good because he's got a very unique ability. He's the only card with this ability so far. I have seen an image of another card which had a very grave robber style spade on it, and it had a little bit of a frost effect going on it. So we'll have to see what that one comes about to. But for now, the Caretaker has a unique ability amongst cards. He's a disloyal card, so the 8 strength you're actually giving to your opponent, which is normal, which is average for a spy, but this guy is not a spy. So we'll have to see whether the 8 strength is actually worth it in order to be placed into your deck. Don't forget, he's a hero card, so hero cards are competitive. There's a lot of strong ones out there, and he's going to need to be good in order for you to take him. His unique ability is the Resurrection Grave Robber. When played, take any non-hero unit from your opponent's graveyard and play it instantly. So in effect, he's like every other medic out there that takes a card out of the graveyard, but he takes it out of the opponent's graveyard. And that's one of the reasons why he's a card that we're really going to have to look to in the future, because it's not really that easy to build a deck around him. There's a couple of things you can do, but for the most part, you're going to be seeing what the opponent is going to have. So what the opponent chooses is most of the time your card availability for this card. Okay, so I guess he quite heavily revolves around meta as well. If people build a lot of decks that have really good cards for him to pick out, it's going to be a very good deck. A very good card choice, should I say. Okay, so the positives and negatives of this card. He will work in any deck because he's a pretty standalone card for the most part. So it all depends on the opponent, really. So he will go in any deck well, but whether he's worth it is another thing. He's got a couple of excellent card choices to take out of the opponent's graveyard. Now we are going to go over quite a lot of cards after the positives and negatives I've gone through, to see whether, out of the cards we've seen, whether it's worth taking this particular muster, whether it's worth taking this bond or medic or spy, etc. And just see whether per deck, if he fares against any deck better than others at the moment. Obviously this is going to be something which will change when more cards are released. But this card is actually pretty good in mirror matches. Unfortunately, you can't dictate whether you're going to get a mirror match, so that is a bit of a negative. It's not a high positive, but if you do get a mirror match, it's going to be very useful. And we'll go on to that a lot later, but for a quick example, if I'm playing Skellige and you're playing Skellige, if you've got some Queensguard in your graveyard, and I had an unlucky hand at the start and I didn't get any Queensguard. If you don't know what Queensguard are, they are a muster ability unit. So all mine are stuck in my deck. I could medic out, steal the opponent's Queensguard from their graveyard, place them on my side of the board, and she will muster out all my other 3. So effectively I get a free muster there, which is really useful. So this only works with mirror matches because obviously you'll probably will have some of the same cards, and that's really useful. So this card is good to initiate the pass and play scenario. So you will place 8 strength on their side of the board. Obviously, depending on what you pick, you could gain quite a lot of strength, but you could just as likely pick out another spy and place it on their side of the board as well, which will give you another card, and then they'll have about 16 strength then, in which case they're probably thinking, oh, I don't want to actually play any more cards. So it's a pass and play. If they keep playing cards, they're effectively wasting them. If they pass, then it's your opportunity to judge the battlefield and see whether you want to actually build up a good offense and try and win the round. So this guy is going to be really effective with spies. So if you like play a spy and then go into their graveyard, then you play this guy, and then you play the spy that you played earlier, you'll get another card draw. You'll give them 16 strength probably, and you've got some pretty good draws there, and you're hopefully going to try and make them pass, which is really interesting tactic. I do like it. It's very useful for that sort of scenario. So the negatives are that it does give the opponent 8 strength that you can't do anything about. Other spies are characters which you could negate the strength of, but this guy you can't change it, and we'll have to judge, especially on the next section, whether 8 strength is actually worth the card you're drawing out. You know, it highly depends on the opponent's decks. Apart from spies that you play go into their graveyard and then you can pull out with this card, there's nothing really you can do. You can't put any cards into the opponent's graveyard. Any disloyal cards will do the job, but for the most part spies will be the best option for that. And there's quite a lot, even though earlier I said there's a couple of excellent card choices, there's a hell of a lot of bad card choices for this card. You're giving them 8 strength, so you have to try and offset that 8 strength. So just picking a crappy 4 strength minion that doesn't do anything, especially to you because you're not in a mirror match, for example, then it's not really a worthwhile card. You have to try and get some proper use out of it, otherwise, you know, it's almost like, why don't bother playing it. If you don't get an opportunity to get a good combo from this, then there's no point in playing it at all. So highly dependent on the opponent's decks, but they're always probably going to have something useful, but there's a lot of cards that you don't really want. And we'll go over now, hopefully, some of the cards that you do want and some that you don't want, how certain abilities work well or badly with this particular card, and also like what decks so far this card worked well against. So I'm going to pull up some notable cards that the Caretaker might use, and we'll just kind of discuss if it's a good one or not. Now, for the most part, you'll be pulling character cards out, because don't forget, that's a good idea. They're going to be the most powerful things that are standalone. Now, troop cards are generally not worth it for the most part, unless it's a mirror match, because then you can actually utilize the musters, the bonds, and stuff like that quite effectively. But other than that, it's mostly going to be character cards. We will go on to troop cards later. So first off, you've got cards with Death Wish. These are like your prize winning cow. You are going to be using the Caretaker on at least turn 2 or 3, unless you've got a very early Scorch or Epidemic going on. But you need to be careful not to wait too long with the Caretaker if you're going for something like the prize winning cow. You are giving them 8 strength, but you'll be getting 10 next turn, so could be useful. It might also just be very good to get the cow on your side of the board if you've got loads of decoys ready. But that's something you'll have to have a bit of foresight to work on. A very good card that is neutral and a lot of people might have is Dandelion. He's going to give you a Commander's Horn. Now, he is melee, so if you haven't got a melee orientated deck, it's not really an ideal card for you. But it might stop the opponent from picking it out themselves and reusing it with a medic. And yeah, you could get a lot more than 8 strength with a Commander's Horn from Dandelion. So, very good card to choose to pick out. Very good indeed. Now, for Siegfried. Now, if you're fighting Skellige and Siegfried's in there, now that's not a bad card. You only get 2 strength, although it's actually 3 because I think she'll give 1 to herself when she gets pulled out, most likely. But yeah, you pull this one out, and then you can pull one out of your own graveyard. So you are kind of, and that goes for any other healer that you want to do. Siegfried is a good one, a very good healer to choose, rather than just any 0 strength ones. But you will pull her out of your graveyard, play her, and then you'll get to resurrect something else. So it's a double resurrect, and she will actually get 2 strength there, because you're pulling another thing out. So you're starting to, you know, that's 4 strength just on Siegfried, and whatever you pull out of your own graveyard, it could be Dandelion. You never know. So she could be pretty good. If you've got you'd have to analyze what cards you've got in your own graveyard before you make a choice and pull her out. But really reasonable. And other healers could work as well if you don't have a medic of your own. But obviously you're not going to get the strength bonus that Siegfried is going to give you. But a very interesting card to choose. Forgive me for my pronunciation. I haven't worked on this lady. Negley. She's a spy, but she's a very cheap spy, 4 strength, right? So you can draw a random special card from your deck to your hand. Special cards are very powerful, and this goes in with the previous. This will go for all spies. The previous statement where this will really encourage play or pass scenarios, because you put 8 strength on the board, and now you put another 4 strength on the board. That's 12 strength, which is reasonable. You're drawing a special card from your deck or hand to your hand. So, very powerful one there, to be honest. You are giving them a 12, but you probably only want to do a Caretaker and then a Spy if you really want to give up, or you're really pushing for them to pass. and you think you can beat them in one card. But a very interesting one. Special cards are dangerous. Obviously, you have to know your own deck there. The deck that I built with Skellige doesn't have any Scorches, doesn't have any weather effects in actual special cards. All mine were choice heroes, so she will be very good in that case. So much like this card, Dextra, any other spies, Donna and Hindar, are going to be excellent ways to make the opponent try and pass, while also drawing cards yourself. You're giving them a lot of strength, but you only really want to do this, again, if you want them to pass. Yebin is obviously one of the better spies in the game, so he's going to work just as well, and if not better than the other ones we've mentioned, just. Sarah's going to be a good one. It's 4 strength for you, so you've already halved the strength thing, but you also get a clear weather. It may be very, very useful for you, and it will stop the opponent pulling her back out, especially if you're a weather heavy deck, because I think monsters play a lot of weather cards, and a lot of counter monster decks have used Sarah along with decoys. Now, you don't necessarily have to use the Caretaker to get the job done, because a spy, Catacan or Frightener would do the same thing at getting rid of Sarah, so also might not be too good. It depends if you really need a weather card at that particular point. There's a couple of useless cards, Sheldon Skaggs, Bess. You know, these play a Mahakaman Guard from your deck, play a Blue Stripe Scout from your deck. Obviously, in a mirror match, that's great, but in a non-mirror match, it's not so great. The Crones are also probably useless unless you've got the Crones in your deck, because then you'll get all your Crones come out, and an extra one, a duplicate, one of them. Now, a very powerful card that I'm looking at here, I don't know how to pronounce this guy, this Green Dragon guy. Basically, it's an extra siege. I mean, it's 6 strength, so you've almost mitigated the damage, but you can scorch the opponent's siege row. Obviously, really good if they've got a lot of siege, but for the most part, they probably won't take this dragon if they have their own siege. Not that it matters, but usually, but I see a lot of monster decks taking this card just because they will weather the melee and they will weather the ranged, but then they've got nothing for siege, so they'll take this guy. So, but they don't have any cards on siege apart from maybe the Crones, so it's probably not going to be something you'll see very often that's actually useful for you as well, I would think. Now, the Giant Toad, and there's another card very much like the Giant Toad, Ice Giant. They're already 8 strength, and that's, you know, already mitigated the damage. But then if you actually have got a Biting Frost in play or a Torrential Rain in play, they'll get doubled. So you are effectively doubling your strength in that case, and taking it away from the opponent, which is nice, nice-ish. Now, if the opponent has any witches in their deck, witches are neutral, so you don't need a mirror match for these guys. If the opponent have witches in their deck and you've got witches in your deck, you could obviously do the situation where you medic out the opponent's witcher and all yours will come onto the board as well. So that's really interesting, but I don't know how many people are taking witches. So far I haven't seen many decks with them, but they're nice 24 strength, which is pretty good. But you'd both have to have them to make it really that effective. Actually, a very strong card is this lady. Apologise for the pronunciation, I haven't worked on her. Moran. She's 8 strength, already mitigated, and she's got the morale boost, motivate ability, so she's going to get even stronger in that case, so she could be very worthwhile. And finally, Trololo is going to be the highest strength character card that you can pull out. Not bad if you've got a lot of Commander's Horns and a melee orientated deck, and maybe an Alchemist, because he'll work really well with that. So if you can steal your opponent's one of that, that'd be very useful, because no doubt if the opponent takes Trololo, they'll probably build something around him, so very effective there. So they're all the character cards that are notable. There was a few that were interesting, but you really kind of have to see how you want to play it, really. They're just going over some of the troop cards, which are usually a lot better in mirror matches, of course. We'll just go over the abilities and see how good they are as we go through. So first off, you've got the medics. We kind of already talked about this with Siegfried. Siegfried is the exception. She's going to be really good. But any 0 strength ones like Havkar Healer and Priestess of Freya, I don't know how. That's probably not useful at all. You're giving the opponent 8 strength. You're getting 0 strength back. But you are going to be able to pull something out of your own graveyard. You know, you have to make a choice. If you've got a lot of motivate, it's going to be a bit better. But you've got to make a choice there on whether you've got something that's really worth giving the mate strength for basically just the medic ability. You've got any sort of weatherbound fog abilities. You're only going to pull one out, so it's going to be absolutely crap. No point doing that. If you pull an alchemist out the opponent's graveyard, if you can utilize it, which you probably can't if you don't have the deck for it, so he's going to be useless. Any form of muster cards, again, absolutely useless unless you are in a mirror match where you can actually have those cards yourself. And that goes the same thing with bond cards as well. Bonds are going to be absolutely useless except to stop the opponent getting it, but giving the mate strength for it is a bit much. But if you're a mirror match and you have these exact bond cards, then it's going to be great for you. You're going to have like 4 on the board again, which is a very powerful combo, and that's not even including your leader card, which if you're Northern Realms, you've got the Blue Stripes Commander, which could get 4 on the board with your leader ability, and then you could do Dun Banner Light Cavalry and get 4 on the board of that with the Caretaker if the opponent has him as well. So very effective if it's mirror match, otherwise useless really. There's a couple of cards which get doubled in certain weather effects. Not really worth going for unless they're probably like, I'd say 6 strength minimum. Anything lower than that, it's not really worth going for. For example, Ancient Foglet, it's not really worth it. You'll only get 6 strength from that. Now, if you choose to get a Motivate card out, like Blue Stripes Scout, for example, he's 4 strength in himself, so that's reasonable. He's got the Motivate ability. This will probably get you over the 8 strength cap, but the question is, how much more will it get you? And is it worth wasting a hero slot to just get, I'm guessing, maybe 4 to 6 more strength? It doesn't seem worth it. If you're actually playing the Caretaker to get more strength on the board, you got a hard job. He's not really, I don't think he's designed to actually beat, you know, you give them 8 and you get 55,000 strength. It's not it's not what he's designed for at all. And there's a lot of cards which are Motivate that do the same sort of thing with 4 strength. And yeah, we talked about the Queen's Guard strategy of muster abilities. Work really well if it's a mirror match and you had a bad hand. A lot of these options are really bad. Now, the main option, which is really good, are obviously spies if you really want to just draw cards and make them pass. But the other excellent card choice that I mentioned before is an empowered card. So the best example we've got so far is a Clan on Crate Warrior. 6 strength, so you've already pretty much negated the strength that you're giving them. But also, it's such a powerful card to steal, you know? I mean, I said when I made my Skellige deck analysis that if the opponent could banish your Clan on Crate Warrior, which you keep trying to pull out of the graveyard, it's such a devastating thing if they actually manage to banish that. And it's even more worse if they actually manage to steal it. They manage to like medic out your Clan on Crate Warrior, it will at least be 12 strength in that case. And that's already way above the 8 strength that you're giving them, and it's such a powerful card to negate from their replay, because they're going to build their deck around Clan on Crates, definitely, if they're Skellige. So it's such a powerful card for you, so that is such a good one to do. And I think the Clan Dimun Pirate Captain is also in power like that now, so really good card to steal. But that is Skellige only, you know, so it's not really, it's up to you if you take the Caretaker, of course, but are you going to take him just for that one card on Skellige only thing? And that's pretty much it. So for the most part, we've seen quite a few cards. A lot of them were not very useful unless it's a mirror match, and you know, you can't guarantee that, so it's not really worth it. There were a couple of really good combos, but rely on mirror match. We saw about 2, maybe 3 cards that were actually really, really good. The Empower cards were really good. A couple of spies if you want to play that. Now, the biggest question to do with the Caretaker, and one of the biggest issues with it, is that it's a pretty nice, interesting tactic. It is unique. Would depend on the opponent, but Era's is competitive. There's so many much better cards that actually you can guarantee a certain effect, which is very strong. You've got Saskia if you're Skellige, and she will allow you to have a choice ability, 2 really strong ones as well. Scorch and Commander's Horn, they're so powerful. You know, you've got Triss, Mistress of Magic, she does Fair Weather and Scorch. Really powerful cards. And do you want to give up something like that for something that steals something from the opponent's graveyard? I think it's too random. You don't know what the opponent's going to have yet. Obviously, the more cards get revealed, the more interesting this card will get. We'll have to revisit this card. But at the minute, I think no one's going to take this guy because the 8 strength is a bit too high. If he was a loyal card, I'd imagine his strength to be about 3 or 4. And then it would probably be worth taking him, because then you get, you know, an extra ability and 4 strength and whatever you pull out, and you've got the chance to pull out something really good like the Clanon Crate Warrior. So he might be worth taking if he was loyal and about 4 strength. I think being loyal and 8 is a bit too high. So let me know what you think about the Caretaker. So far, I think he's not going to be a card many people are going to play. I might play him to give me a bit of fun. He's definitely a card which is going to be interesting and fun, and it's going to make your opponent go, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" And that's going to be fun. That is the most fun you can do. But let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope I cleared everything I wanted to clear. See you later, guys. Take care.